Okay, we're going to go through a few more problems with confidence intervals with proportions. So the first one says, find the margin of error associated with the given statistics from a random sample. So it says 98% confidence level, sample size of 2910, of which 20% are successes. So we can use our calculator to do this, or we could use the formula. So we don't have the formula actually on our formula sheet. So let's go ahead and go through how to do it on the calculator. So our n here is going to be 2910. To get our x, we're going to take, remember, the p hat times n, so 0.20 times 2910. So here we get 582 for our x. So we can now go to stat, over to tests, and to the one prop z interval. So we're going to put in our x, 582. We're going to put in our our n, 2910. And then we wanted a confidence level of 98%, so we'll hit calculate. And remember, to find our e, we can take the upper value, so e equals upper value minus the p hat. So we're going to take 0.21725 minus 0.2. So our e here is 0.01725. So number 6 here says, a genetic experiment with peas resulted in one sample of offspring that consisted of 409 green peas and 160 yellow peas. Construct a 95% confidence interval to estimate the percentage of yellow peas. So our x here of our number of yellow peas is 160. Our n, our total number of peas sampled, would be the total, 409, the green peas plus the yellow peas. So we're going to take 409 plus 160. So 569. And then we want a 95% confidence level. So we're going to go stat, over to tests, and down to the one prop z interval. So our x is 160, our n is 569, we want 0.95, and we'll calculate that. So our interval just gives us here at the top a 0.244 to 0.318. So just rounding to 3 decimal places there. So part B says, it was expected that 25% of the peas would be yellow. Given the percentage is not 25%, do the results contradict the expectations? And the answer is no, because the interval contains 25%. Okay, now sometimes we want to know how many people would we have to survey or sample to get a desired margin of error. So we can actually take that formula for E and solve it for N. So that's what's been done here. And if we know P hat, we know about what the proportion is, or we have an estimate, we have a formula, and these formulas are on your formula sheet. If we don't use P hat, we just estimate it to be 0.5. Q hat would also be 0.5. So P hat times Q hat would be 0.25, and that's what the second formula is. And it's important to know here that we always round the sample size up to the next whole number, because if it said, just for example, that you have to sample 5.3 people, well, you can't sample 0.3 of a person, so you'd have to sample at least 6 people to actually get that number. So 7 here says find the minimum sample size required to estimate a population proportion or percentage. Our margin of error is 5%, so that's our E. The confidence level is 90%, so that's where we're going to get Z alpha over 2. We'll say critical value. And P hat is estimated by 0.58 or 58%. So P hat here will be 0.58. Q hat then is always 1 minus 0.58, which would be 0.42. And since it says 90%, if we look at our formula sheet, the critical value we're going to use, so Z alpha over 2, for that whole number, we're going to put in the number we get from over here, 1.645. So we're going to use this formula here. So N, we have that Z alpha over 2 squared, so 1.645. We're going to square that times 0.58 times 0.42 all over the error. We wanted 5%, so we'll put 0.05, and that's also squared. So on our calculator, we're going to do 1.645 squared times 0.58 times 0.42 divided by 0.05 squared. And since this is all just multiplication and division, you don't have to worry about parentheses. So this gives us 263.7, so we would round up to 264 people is what we would need to estimate, or to sample. Okay, so let's do one more of these. So this says Toyota provides an option of sunroof and side airbag package for $1,400 for its Corolla model. Toyota wants to determine the percent of Corolla buyers who would pay an additional $1,400 for this package. So the question asks, what is the minimum number of Corolla buyers to be surveyed in order for us to present a 95% confidence interval that has a margin of error of plus or minus 3 percentage points? And we're going to assume that we don't know P hat here. So here's our formula. So for the Z alpha over 2, we want to use a 95% confidence level. So remember, those critical values are on our formula sheet. So we'll be using 1.96. So 1.96 squared times 0.25. And we want it to be within 3 percentage points, so 0.03 squared. So we're going to put this in our calculator. So here we'd get 1,067.1. We'd have to round this up, and our answer would be that we'd have to sample 1,068 people.